FA fam, what is going on? It feels like we're drinking here, going back to back weeks of going live. Wednesdays, get used to it. It's how we're going to start to roll, getting back in the groove of everything. Really good to be with you all. We have some news coming in, training camp starting. Aaron Rodgers is back. We have guys in the COVID protocol already. This is honestly probably my favorite time of year. Like I love all the blurbs. I love all the coach speak. So I am here for all of it. I do want to send a quick shout out to everyone who has joined the Discord recently. That's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of good conversation in there. The link you can see is in the YouTube comments. If you are not on YouTube and you're watching somewhere else, just head over to our channel and you'll see the link there and you can just grab it. It's free, no strings attached, anything like that. So just trying to build up a community with you all, get some good engagement, some talk and all that kind of stuff. And once we get to in season and drafts and all that, obviously answering all of your questions as well. And speaking of the comments on the YouTube channel as well, I know we've had a lot of really good conversation with people asking questions and just going back and forth with us on some of our takes. So keep that coming as well. We really do enjoy it, and we're here for it. So, Kev, how you doing, man? What's going on? How you feeling? Bud?
Good. Training camp's here. Check. Right. I mean, football season is here. Hype season is here, where we're going to start getting a lot of hype for these players. Yeah. So, this is people are going to be drafting here in a couple weeks, right? So football's back. So that's always positive. And did you see Aaron Rodgers' press conference today?
I saw like a couple clips of it. He did not hold back.
No, it was refreshing to see him just kind of tell his side of the story. And well, I mean, the deal's done, right? So what are they going to do about it? And so
yeah.
I thought it was good that he spoke his mind and that, he didn't hold back and he kind of told his side of the story and why he's doing what he's doing. And it doesn't sound like he's going to be back.
No, not at all. He's burning the bridge as he stands on it. And then Davante Adams just following his lead too and be like, yeah, I'm not taking a hometown discount. Nope.
I wouldn't either. I mean, these guys.
No, not at all.
So, and I think it's a smart move. But I will say, for fantasy purposes, selfishly, I am happy that he is staying in Green Bay for this year. Big bump and big boost for all the people that were able to get Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams and Aaron Jones at a discount.
Yeah.
Playing best ball, because those guys were going, much later than what they typically would. Now, I mean, Aaron Jones, top 5 season. We're back, boys. Aaron Jones. Back in the saddle, locked him back in top 5. Feel good about that. And then I have Davante Adams at 2. And so, yeah.
I think you're going to keep him at 2? You're not putting him over Tyreek?
No. It's just very rare that you see wide receivers repeat. It's very close, very, very close between the big 3, in my opinion, of him, Diggs, and Adams. I think there's a case to be made for all 3 to be number 1.
Yeah. They have 18 touchdowns. It's going to be do we have a little surprise here? What is this? How are we so lucky to have this? He exists.
He's been dead. Like, I thought he was dead. I legitimately thought he was dead. I haven't seen him. We haven't seen him on a video in I don't know how long. Like, I think it was draft season, NFL draft.
Whenever he was drunk in Hawaii eating Domino's was the last time I think we saw him.
They don't have Domino's in Hawaii, you fool.
What were you eating? It looked like Domino's.
Was it Pizza Hut? My bad. Pizza Hut.
No, it was – I forget the name of the restaurant. It was authentic Hawaiian Italian food, okay, gents? And it was delicious, and I will not be chastised for eating good food. How are we doing? What are we talking about?
Let us know in the chat. All right, I just want to know. If you're in Hawaii, are you going to be eating pizza?
It was one meal, boys. We had tons of fish the rest of the entire week. Had plenty of fish, I ate
hush puppies from Long John Silver's does not count as fish, Rob.
Hey, they are good. Get out of here. Everyone loves some Long John Silver's when you're drunk at 2 a.m. Come on.
That sounds like the worst.
Well,
so real quick, I just want to hit on a couple news and notes from training camp today, since we are getting some of that before we jump into this AFC training camp battle preview. But I'm just going to rattle this off, and then you guys can chime in with anything you think is worthy expanding on. But Zach Wilson, the lone first rounder who is not signed yet, and because he's not signed his contract, he's not reporting to camp. We had the Dak injury. Robbie, maybe you can touch on that a little bit. He has the shoulder strain. It's not believed to be serious, but he could miss a couple of weeks. So that's definitely something we're going to have to pay attention to. Also, another reason why you don't want to have your redrafts early. Wait until as long as you can, right before the season starts. And speaking of injuries, we had Curtis Samuel, Dwayne Eskridge, Devontae Parker, Preston Williams are all on the PUP list. Nyheim Hines has a hip injury. Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, Jalen Richard, and Theo Riddick. I literally didn't even know Theo Riddick was still in the league. I'll be completely honest. I saw his name and I was like, what? But they're all on the COVID list. And then apparently there's going to not be a quarterback competition for the Bears or the Niners. Apparently Jimmy G is the guy, and Lance is battling to be the backup.
Yeah, until about week 4. The Bears are the Bears
too.
I mean, I think Jimmy G probably has a little bit more rope than Trey Lance in San Francisco, but what the Bears are doing with Andy Dalton is just ridiculous. Like, get out of here with Andy Dalton, right?
Well, that was their fault, because they signed Andy Dalton, right? And then they luck into Justin Fields. Like, no one expected Justin Fields to fall to them. And then they're like, well, we have to take him. It'd be stupid not to. And then what are you going to do? Like, you're going to have to break your promise to Andy Dalton, which they will, but you're not going to tell him right now, right? You literally said, you're our QB1, you're our love. Oh, wait, Justin Fields here. So I think they will. They're just not going to tell you they're going to do it right now.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time you did that. Who was it? Mike Glennon, when they signed him.
Who started, right? He started, and it was like horrendous week 1, and then they went quickly to Trubisky, I think, shortly after.
But Robbie, are you nervous with the Dak injury, being the Cowboys homer?
No. I mean, it's a muscle strain in his throwing arm, so they're going to hold him out a little bit. They didn't do anything too extensive. Like, they kept all of his, they kept his schedule intact. Like, they didn't pull him for, like, hey, he can't be out of practice, he can't do interviews. So, like, I think it's just a strain. They're being precautious, so not worried as of yet. But definitely something to keep your eye on. You obviously don't want shoulder strains starting at the beginning of camp, so not great, but I'm not worried yet.
All right, let's dive into this. We did the NFC last week. You can go back and check that out on the YouTube channel if you'd like to see our thoughts on that. And if you guys have any questions, redraft, dynasty, training camp, whatever, drop them in and we'll answer them as we go along here. And we had a very typical, very on-brand stream last week. For whatever reason, we thought we were going to get through all 32 teams, and we got through 16 in almost 2 hours. So keep the questions coming. We definitely love it. We definitely enjoy it. But let's start off. We're going to go alphabetical order through this meeting. We're going to start off in Baltimore. What are you guys looking forward to? Kev, I'll throw it to you. Is there anything in particular that stands out to you with the Ravens?
I think the biggest question is going to be either wide receiver room, right? Where does Rashad Bateman get into this? And, even, the guy that we don't ever talk about that was drafted there was Tylan Wallace. Like, he gets no love, like no discussion, no talk, no nothing. Like, he was never drafted there. But, I just think this is one of those wide receiver rooms that's going extremely late. None of them are, I think, Marquise Brown is going the earliest. He's probably going, in the 40s among wide receiver. And I think there's just not a lot of faith that this offense is going to be an offense that's going to throw the ball enough to be able to support these guys. And so I know we've heard some reports this offseason that they're going to try to throw the ball more and stuff like that. And I think for a lot of people in fantasy, I'll believe it when I see it. We're not going to just, believe that. And so I do think that getting some of these wide receivers late, namely Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman, taking a shot on one of them, I think is a smart move.
There was Robbie, real quick. I just want to say, as we're talking about the passing game, one of the blurbs that came out from training camp today was that J.K. Dobbins and Hollywood Brown were the two standouts for the passing game today. So just want to throw that in there. Robbie, what you got?
Yeah, it's tough because they obviously have to throw more. They threw at such a low pace that I do think it's unsustainable. Let's say they still have a top 2, top 3 defense. They have to throw more. I think they were throwing under 30 times per game. I think Lamar had just over 400 passing attempts. It was at such a slow pace throwing the ball. But I do think even if they do increase, right, like I don't know if we're at the level where you can have more than one sustainable wide receiver that you're counting on a week in, week out basis. And so if you're talking about guys that you're going to want to have for this year, it's probably Hollywood, and that's about it, unless there's an injury, because there's still not the volume that you want after you take away Mark Andrews' share of the pie. There's just not enough for people past Hollywood. So there's Sammy Watkins going to get a couple each game. There's Rashad Bateman going to get a couple each game. We're throwing in Tylan Wallace there a little bit. There's too many smaller mouths on a pie that's not that big to start out with. So Hollywood, absolutely. I think he is a guy that has those boom bust week. And if you're getting him at wide receiver 4, like Kev is saying, or later, he's absolutely a guy that can jump into your lineup when you have some bye weeks, if he has a good matchup where you'd like to play him. But other than that, I'm avoiding.
Let's move on to Buffalo. Robbie, I'll throw it right back to you. For me, this one's pretty straightforward. There's really not too much to talk about, but I guess finding out who like the wide receiver 2 is, I guess I'm still not really interested in either of the running backs. I don't think, they even had their offensive coordinator came out and said that they're not necessarily looking to run it any more often this year. They just want to be more effective and efficient when they do. So Buffalo is pretty cut and dry for me. Do you have anything to say on that, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, the running backs kind of cannibalize each other. Again, we're talking about a small piece of the pie. Now it's just the opposite way, right? They don't run the ball a ton. You got 2 guys that are going to mix in along with whatever Josh Allen does with the rushing game. So don't love that. Devin Singletary is obviously the passing downs guy, so you're going to like him a little bit more in PPR. Zach Moss is going to be the guy that scores more touchdowns, so you're going to like him a little bit more in standard, maybe half PPR. They get pretty close, but yeah, it's probably who's going to be that wide receiver 2. You guys might know this. I'm a big Gabe Davis guy. I think he takes a step forward. 17 yards per reception, 7 touchdowns last year on only 62 targets. I think he takes a little bit more of that target share now in year 2. We've seen rookie wide receivers kind of take that step in their sophomore year. We saw it with Terry McLaurin, with DK Metcalf, with A.J. Brown, right? And he's not on that level of wide receivers. I get that. But I think once you have an offseason, a non-COVID offseason, right? Well, kind of, right? They still have some of these precautions, but they're in camp together right now here in July. I think he gets a little bit more of the target share with John Brown leaving. Emmanuel Sanders comes in. I don't think he gets all of John Brown's targets. Cole Beasley, another year past his prime. I think he maybe takes another 5% back on his target share. So I like Gabe Davis as a guy that he doesn't need a ton of targets to be fantasy relevant, because he scores a touchdown every other game for you, and he gets 17 yards every reception. But if he gets, let's just say, 85 targets, this is a guy you're going to want to play in good matchups.
Kev, anything to add on the Buffalo front?
I really like Zach Moss. I mean, I'm not a Devin Singletary guy. I think that Zach Moss is definitely the better running back between the two. And I think there's an opportunity there, especially at the 8th, 9th round that he's being drafted at. I don't mind taking a shot on him there and seeing how this plays out with him. Do I think that he is a great running back? No. But I think he has the opportunity this year to see more opportunity. And I think, somewhere in the 55% range, I think is fine. And when you're talking about taking a guy that late, I don't mind that. I don't mind taking that shot. That's in the upper 30s in terms of running backs, and a guy that can at the very least be a useful flex option on a week-to-week basis. So I do like Zach Moss quite a bit this year, and just kind of taking a shot on him. Him and James Conner are probably my 2 of my favorite guys in that range to take a shot at.
Cody, I want you to kind of break that tie, because I know Kevin and I kind of disagree on this, and my quick advocation for Devin Singletary is that you're just going to get 25 to 30 more receptions with Devin Singletary. And Kev, you say that Zach Moss is the better runner. We really haven't seen that, right? From a yards per carry standpoint, when you just match him up running back to running back, Devin Singletary's numbers still are better than Zach Moss. So I don't know if we've seen Zach Moss be the better runner. Now, can he improve in his second year, right? I'm giving this second-year boost to some of the rookies from last year. He can obviously get better as well. We've seen Sean McDermott already come out and say he's seen Devin Singletary work on his weaknesses, turn a corner, right? That's coach speak, but that's something that I'm going to take, right, with my bias. And so if you're talking about someone who's going to get 25 receptions more, maybe even more than that, in a PPR, even half PPR, add in all those receiving yards, maybe a couple of receiving touchdowns, you'd have to have Zach Moss score 4 to 5 to 6, probably 5 or 6 more rushing touchdowns to just match that receiving work that Singletary will get just to keep him even. And now we're talking about you're going to get Singletary 7 or 8 picks later, a couple rounds later, because he's going a little bit later in drafts. I think that's my advocation for why you'd want Devin Singletary. Cody, you want to break that tie? Who do you like more? You don't like either. You don't like either, do you? You just
yeah. I'm not going to be of any help here. I mean, I guess I would lean Singletary just because he's going to be cheaper, but I think there's probably I'm not sure who's going around Singletary and ADP right now, but I'm assuming there's probably guys that I like more with higher upside. I mean, Josh Allen is going to limit all of their touchdowns. I don't really see him dumping the ball off all that much to Singletary when guys like Beasley and Sanders are going to be there. So I don't know. For the running game for Buffalo, I'm kind of just staying away from in general. I'll take the cheaper of the two,
which is Singletary.
By default, and I probably wouldn't even draft him if he felt. I don't think with any of the best ball drafts I've done so far, I've picked Singletary at all. So, but we have Walito coming through with the super chat as always. The GOAT. Let's just put that to rest. The TFA GOAT right here with Walito. But yeah. Deshaun Watson reports to practice, and they reward him with putting him with the fourth-team offense, giving him snaps at running back, and then also putting him at safety. So if there were any thoughts of like maybe like this head coach could be like an olive branch and an intermediary between the front office and Deshaun Watson, that was a quick fuck no. And Deshaun Watson is all but gone.
Where do you guys have him going? Where do you guys
Philly.
have him landed? Yeah, Philly, I think, is the favorite. Any other contenders you think for?
I think
for
Denver. I think Denver it would be a contender. But the only thing I see with Denver of why they wouldn't do it is I think they probably have to feel like they have a inside track on somebody like Aaron Rodgers next year. Which to me though, like as crazy as it sounds, I think I would probably. Why not just go get Deshaun Watson? I mean, I know he has the legal trouble and stuff like that, but like Deshaun Watson's 26 years old. Like like this is a guy that you're going to have on your team for the next 20. That potentially, unless something really bad comes out of the legal trouble that he's in, you're talking about something you're probably going to have on your team for the next 12 years. I mean, and an elite level quarterback. So. I could see why Denver would rather wait and kind of go with the Peyton Manning type situation where they did, a few years back with Aaron Rodgers and with an offense that's ready built, a defense that's built, and so, but yeah, I mean, I think Philadelphia makes the most sense for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and Philly has the upper hand with having the extra ones next year as well.
Because they have 3 first next year, right?
2.5, right? Because they have the Carson Wentz. It's a second, but could become a first if he plays. What is it, like over 85% of the snaps or something like that?
So yeah, I mean, unless he gets hurt, yeah,
right.
But so I mean, which is actually, I mean, so if you're Philly, because like a lot of these teams, because they're probably he's still going to take at least 2 or 3 first round picks, and if you could get all that out of the way in 1 year, like just take our 3 first for next year. I mean, that is a good way to go. I mean, obviously, and I think he's worth it. I know there's a lot of people that value picks way too much because more often than not, I mean, how often do first round picks bust? I mean, like very at a much higher rate. Like, give me the proven commodity, give me the elite quarterback, and I'll worry about the draft picks later.
He is signed through. Sorry, Cody. He is signed through like 2025 as well. So I think that's another point to what Kev's saying is that you're not just trading for a young guy who, we have to say this, his career could be absolutely, derailed and if rightfully so, if things come out the way that they shake out with the lawsuit that he has in front of him. But outside of that, like, we're talking about a guy who's locked up for 4 years, not old by any means. So yeah, it's going to definitely take some large capital to move. So I would expect most, if not 2 or 3 of those picks, maybe plus Jalen Hurts coming back. I think we're talking about that level of a trade to get him.
And his deal is actually going to be friendly because in a few years, when the cap, whatever the new TV money comes in, these deals where these guys are signing right now are going to be such great deals for these guys because of where you're paying them compared to where these contracts are going to go. So, I mean, you're talking in 2 or 3 years, Deshaun Watson could be like the 12th highest paid quarterback, and you end up getting a deal on him because of, you got him signed early.
I was about to say, speaking of young elite quarterbacks, let's move to Cincy. Kev, what is sticking out to you? What do you want to see? Kind of, how is there anything you want to see play out? Are there any questions or situations you want to see play out with the Bengals?
Dude, sorry, I got thrown off. What? Oh, play with the Bengals. Yeah, I mean, I think what everybody wants to see, right? We want to see Jamar Chase. We've decided to see T. Higgins, but with these 3 preseason games, I don't think we are going to see a ton of starters play in these 3 preseason games. I wouldn't. There's only 3. I mean, normally you had the 4, right? And it used to be the first game, the starters would play like a drive, and then the second game they may play a quarter. And then the third game would usually be you play through halftime, and then maybe you play a series outside of half. A lot of other teams wouldn't do that. I think for the most part, you probably see your starters, your stars. Maybe they play, a couple drives, during the preseason or something like that, because there's just no reason to have them out there and get them hurt. So, but yeah, I mean, with the Bengals, I think it's pretty much those guys. I want to see how Jamar Chase is doing, and because let's be honest, like Jamar Chase has been a guy that nobody's really talked about how high his ADP is for a rookie wide receiver. I mean, it's pretty fucking high when we're talking about this a rookie wide receiver, and it does take some time for rookie wide receivers to pan out. And so, like, could he be Justin Jefferson? Like Justin Jefferson? Sure, but there's also the scenario where you're drafting him in the 5th, 6th round, and he gets you 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. Not bad year for a rookie. But you're drafting him like you think he is going to be, especially with the way wide receivers being pushed back. You're drafting him like a top 20 wide receiver, and that is pretty spicy.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because when you look at where he's going, he's some team's wide receiver 1, and that scares the hell out of me. Like if he's my wide receiver 2, I feel a lot more comfortable. But I've seen where he's some teams, they go running back. They grab a tight end early, they maybe grab a quarterback early, and then they reach around and they get him as their wide receiver 1. And that's where I think I get a little bit concerned. Now, the bright side is that the Bengals are going to throw so many times, right? They're going to throw 36, 37 times per game, assuming Burrow is back to the Burrow we saw from the first 9 weeks of the season last year. So he can support 3 wide receivers, right? They don't have a tight end that's going to command a lot of targets. Uzama can get a little bit, but we're talking about Higgins, Boyd, and Chase are going to be all guys that probably get in the 100 to 10, 100 to 20 target range. All 3 of them, I think, should be up there. So I definitely think if nothing else than by volume, he should be good. But you're definitely drafting him at probably his peak. Where Cody, you're probably the guy that says, "Hey, why not get Tyler Boyd, a guy that's going to get just as many looks, might not have the same touchdown volume, but you're going to get him 3, 4, 5 rounds later, probably not that much, but 3 or 4 rounds later than you would get a Jamar Chase." I'm absolutely about that for T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I think Higgins is going like just 1 round after Chase, and then Boyd is sneaking up there now too. Like I'm not sure he's going. He might be like 2 rounds behind Chase, I think. So going to be interesting. The thing I'm looking for is, we heard that they want to start using Mixon as a pass catcher. So like I want to see if they're actually doing that in these practices. We had some of the OTA like mini camp stuff where Mixon was lining up out wide and things like that. But I want to see that actually put into practice, and hopefully we do with Giovanni Bernard, being out of the way now. That should open up those looks for Mixon, but then you add in a guy like Chase, so it could get a little money there. But let's go ahead and move on to someone in the division that is Cleveland. Again, this one is pretty cut and dry for me. The only thing I am kind of looking forward to with Cleveland is which offense do we get? Do we get the first half offense where, they were kind of keeping Baker a little bit more limited, a lot more running game, or do we get second half where it's a little bit more balanced and they were opening things up for Baker? I mean, really, that's the only thing I'm looking for. Odell, a value at this point. Apparently he's looking good today in his limited reps. He still wasn't a full participant, but the looks that he was getting from all accounts, he was looking good. So anything you guys looking forward to with the Browns?
No, I think this team's pretty about as cut and dry as you possibly can get. I think most of the players have their kind of defined roles, and so there's not much. It is encouraging to hear Odell Beckham is looking good. That's kind of been the theme this offseason with these guys, with him. I would like to see him at least have one more like really solid year. He is probably as cheap as he's ever been, and in terms of where you can get him and where you can draft him. But I think it's crazy that we're not that far removed from him being a guy that used to go as top 3 wide receiver, top 4 wide receiver, and now he's just kind of an afterthought. But injuries have kind of derailed his career, and going to Cleveland, he hasn't necessarily been the most productive either. But I wouldn't mind seeing one more strong season from him.
Yeah, nothing else to add to that. I'm excited that you're finally at a value for OBJ that you feel like you can invest in him, because I've always been a guy that I've always thought he's overrated. He had that one breakout big year, and then I think he's kind of been living off of that year where he's had injuries or inconsistencies, and his catch percentage is always super low, so he has to get so many targets to make up for that, or so many touchdowns. And I think he's finally at the point where he can be a value for where he's going right now. I think he's right at that wide receiver 30, or kind of right outside, right around that range. And I think that's finally where I'd be interested in taking him as maybe a wide receiver 3 or 4.
Yeah, I really like Odell this year, especially with where he's going. Well, Lito wants to know, if you could choose your slot in a redraft 12-team league, which pick are you taking and why? For me, I either want 1 overall, take CMC, lock it in, or I want like 10, 11, 12. All right, like I don't want to be. I do not like the middle parts of drafts this year. So I either want to be 1 or I want to be somewhere at the back end, because I feel like, especially through like the first like 4 or 5 rounds, there's just so much value with being toward the end. I mean, you're talking about the group of running backs that we all like, with Jones, Eckler, Chubb, Gibson, Mixon. Like, that is just such a cluster group there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire for me as well. And then, talking about, maybe somebody like a Kyle Pitts and your A-Robs and some of like CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, some of those receivers as well. So I either want 1 or I want, 10, 11, 12, something like that. But how do you guys feel?
Same. I mean, I don't mind the running backs that are going in like the middle rounds, like the middle round of the first, where the Camaras and the Saquons and the Zekes, like Aaron Jones, like if all those guys are there, like I feel pretty solid about them. But I feel like, though, once you get to the second, especially if you pick earlier, you're going to miss that run of those running backs that I really want. And so for me, if I were to have like a top 4 pick, then I'm probably then just going like to an anchor RB approach, where I'm going to get that one guy, whether it's, whoever it is I'm getting in those first 3 or 4 picks. And then from there, I'm going to kind of punt running back a little bit. And unless one of those guys falls, if one of those guys were to fall, fine, then I'll take them there. But if not, then I'll probably start going wide receiver, because wide receiver then becomes value, because these guys are being pushed down the draft board because of the running backs.
Yeah, pretty similar. I want to do first overall if I can. If not, I actually do kind of like the middle to late, so not quite as far as you Cody, but maybe the 7 to 9 route where you can still get a guy that has running back, top 3 potential. Like Zeke was falling in those spots, but he's slowly rising up. Now Barkley's kind of tipping back. We'll see how his health is come week 1, but where I can still get a guy that I'm like, this guy can, if things break right, he can be a top 3 running back. And then you kind of swing right around and you can kind of take that second running back shot, or you can go a different route. There's a lot of different ways you can go in that round too. I've seen most of my best teams kind of form in that 7, 8, 9 range where you've waited long enough. You can still get kind of that top 3, 4, 5 talent, but you also have that second round pick coming in right behind earlier than everybody else.
The answer to this, Walito, is yes. I think you could take any 3 of those. How would you guys rank these in terms of picking?
Yeah, but let me ask this though: would you take them? Like, I know it's fine to tell somebody that you would take them, but would you, if you were on the clock and these guys are sitting there, would you take them? What would have to happen for you to take one of these guys in the first?
I'd have to be at the end.
Yep. I'd have to be in Cody's spot where you have your top 5 are off the board. Taylor's off the board. I guess Adams, now that we have Rodgers coming back in the fold, like he's not going to get 18 touchdowns. So I think we just have to accept that that's probably not going to happen. I don't think Rodgers is not going to have a 9.1 touchdown percentage touchdown passing. So I think we have to accept that, but he's still going to be extremely good. And so if we're talking about who is your best bet to have the full workload, right? We have his competition is Tunyon, Cobb, Amari Rodgers, right? He's still going to have the biggest target share out of these 3 names because Tyreek and Kelsey kind of cannibalize each other to an extent, right? They're still going to be great. They're still late first, early second picks. But out of these 3 guys, I'm probably having Adams right above them because of just the sheer target volume he should have. And we've seen the ceiling. He can have a crazy 18 touchdown season. I don't think that repeats, but he has that ability where I don't think we ever see Tyreek. 12 was a decent amount for him. I don't think we see that ever from him where he gets past that 12 mark.
All right, let's move on. Let's head to Denver. Again, I think is another pretty cut and dry one. The one news blurb to come out of training camp today was that Jerry Jeudy just looking like a baller, and he was getting targeted heavily by both quarterbacks. So that fares pretty well for him. And I think I saw something where Cortland Sutton is expected to at least start the year with wearing a knee brace, but nothing that should really affect him. The obvious storyline here, though, is the running back splits, right? And like who's looking good and who's taking control of that job. Outside of that, I think it's pretty cut and dry. Kev, I know Javonte is your bae, so I'll throw this one to you first.
That is 100% what I'm looking forward to. That's all I want to know. It's Javonte watch, right? That's what I want to hear about. Where does he come in? What is he doing? How active is he? How much time is he getting with the ones? Those are all the things that I want to hear about. And when I hear Denver, that's the one thing that I care about because I think the wide receivers are kind of set in stone. Obviously, Noah Fant's the starter. Albert O is going to be backing him up, and then Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy are going to be the 1 and 2, and then I think you probably see KJ Hamler probably mix into the 3 and get some opportunities. But I think all of that's kind of solidified. So for me, it really comes down to the running back situation and how this plays out, and then Rams, Sean McVay, if you're listening right now, I know you are. Can you just trade for Melvin Gordon? Can you take him out of here, get him off this team? Okay, so we don't have to worry about this, and Javonte can just cook this year.
I remember a day where Kev said that Melvin Gordon could be cut. I remember the Melvin Gordon could be cut.
It's still in the range of possibilities. And I've always said it's not a high possibility, but it's certainly in the range of possibility. But I think it's far more likely that they would trade him than they would ever look to cut him.
It's in the ghost pepper of potentials, ghost pepper hot take of potentials. But yeah, I actually think this team isn't quite cut and dry because we have the running back dilemma, right? And I think this is kind of one of those opportunities where you take a Javonte Williams and you might have to sit on him for a couple weeks. You hang on, you hold tight for those first 4 weeks, and week 5, week 6, week 7, you wait for that breakout week. And then I think you just have an absolute star the second half of the season. I'd be really excited if I got Javonte Williams as my running back 3, probably, if you take 2 early and then he's kind of your third running back where you have to sit on him. You take a guy that maybe holds water through the first couple weeks for you there. But the other thing I want to ask you guys is Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. We know they're the 2 starters, but they're so close, and I feel like you can go either way on them. Do you guys lean one way or the other? Because they're so different with what they do, but I also think there's probably maybe a guy that will be the 1A, right? And who is that guy for you, Cody?
Jeudy. This is going to be the year that we see Jeudy take the reins as the alpha in the offense. He's the guy who I'm targeting. I just think that no matter who the quarterback is, he plays to their strengths better. And whoever the quarterback is, I feel like with the way that their defense is set up, with the other weapons they have on this offense, like they're not going to have to be anything more than, an Alex Smith type quarterback where they're just putting the balls in the playmakers' hands. And with Jeudy, it's so crazy how we're so quick to forget just what an absolute stud Jerry Jeudy was. Then he comes out, he has a couple, games where you see him dropping a bunch of balls, and then they're playing a wide receiver from the practice squad at quarterback, and it's just an absolute dumpster fire of a situation. And like now all of a sudden we're just like, oh well, he sucks. Well, for first year as a rookie, well, it sucks. And I just don't get it. I think we see Jerry Jeudy take the reins as the alpha. I do think the target share is going to be close, but I think Jeudy is the guy we want.
So we're just going to shit all over Cortland Sutton. So what's happening right now? Is that what we're doing?
Get him, Kev. Listen,
Jerry Jeudy.
Cortland Sutton.
Over Cortland Sutton.
Cortland Sutton is still a monster. Okay, I think you are forgetting that he got hurt last year, and so you're just forgetting about how good Cortland Sutton is. Cortland Sutton is that guy. Okay, he is that guy, pal. Okay, he is that guy. Cortland. What are we doing here? We got a game going on with Ed and Maddie, but Cortland Sutton is that guy. Okay, and I think you're forgetting how good he is. All right, so hold your horses with this. Okay, Cortland Sutton is still the man.
Hold up, you two. We have the ruler. He has just jumped in. He will be the one that decides who needs to go first in your 2021 drafts. Maddie, we are arguing Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. They're going really the same in redraft, 65 overall and 68 overall. Who do you like better for 2021? Are you leaning one way or the other? Quiet. Mute.
Yep.
I'm apparently in the minority. I heard the lip sync. It was Jeudy.
Oh, let's hear it. Yep. Why you got Jeudy?
Nope.
Quiet again.
Last week, Matty didn't have it plugged in the whole way. He decided.
Yeah, like it was a robot.
But real quick, while Matty figures this out, Wesley, if you were still kicking it with us, is there a platform that you would want to be notified on? We typically send these out on Twitter and then in the Discord as well. So if you're not in our Discord group, that link that is pinned in the comments, jump in the Discord with us. We'll send the notifications out on there. But Wesley, where are you at? What platform are you looking for the notification from?
And apparently, I'm on an island. I'm just on an island over here by myself, on the Cortland Sutton hype.
Matt, are you with us?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
There we go. I had to change my input setting. No, yeah, it's Jeudy for me. I mean, we know Sutton's coming back off a big injury. Judy's going to be a second year, take that second year leap. And, I guess there are concerns about, who's going to be under center. And I'd rather have Judy's route tree with either of those quarterbacks than, just trying to stretch the ball down the field to Courtland Sutton over and over again. So yeah, give me Judy. He's just more of a complete route runner. And I think that especially if Teddy takes over, that's kind of, his game. I think he can fit that system a little better.
And Judy can win deep as well. It's not like he's just a short to intermediate guy.
He runs it all. Judy can just do it all. Whereas Sutton is just more of the deep field, deep threat.
JJ got Mike Davis late second round in 12-man PPR. Good pick. That you can get him 2 to 3 rounds later than that, JJ. So I mean, maybe in the league that you were in, you had say 17 running backs go in the first 2, and I think that is a little too early for Mike Davis, but I do like him. But I think his ADP right now is in the 5th round. So 55. I think you took him a bit early, but I do like him. But I think that was a little too early.
Hey, happens to the best of us. We get a little excited. You get a little excited around the draft, But and you take Mike Davis. Couldn't be me. I mean, it could not be me. I have never been accused of a Mike Davis truther, whether it was in a DJ Nation last year in the streets battling Ryan and Maddie in the streets on it, or now. But it is what it is. He's going to get opportunity. But of course, Q coming in here again with the negativity.
Thank you. No, Q with some positivity this week.
Yes. JJ, let us know what the rest of that squad looked like to see if you totally redeemed yourself. This one, I will have blinders on for this team. I want nothing to do with it. Houston, is there anything you guys are even semi-curious about with the Texans? Obviously, we have Deshaun Watson out the door. There's no reason to target any of those quarterbacks. I mean, is there anybody that you want on your fantasy teams from Houston?
Should there be any remote interest? I know they have 47 running backs, but should there be any interest in David Johnson at where he's going and his ADP and, still being a decent pass catcher and could end up seeing a lot of dump offs? Like, I know there's not a high ceiling there at all, but, he had some flashes, but obviously, Deshaun's out there, but
neither is Will Fuller. That offense is going to be awful. They had what was the report that came out today? Deshaun was playing defense or some shit, catching passes.
Yeah,
doing our man dirty, just doing that man dirty.
What are they doing?
You want to talk shit? You shouldn't have been talking shit. Get out there and play safety. We don't care. You're not our franchise quarterback anymore.
We're going to see Frank Gore just running Wildcat offense all year. Whoever the hell they got. They got Frank Gore, don't they?
I was going to say, wait, do they actually have Frank Gore?
I don't think they have. They have Mark Ingram.
Oh, that's okay. So the other short, fat, old plotter.
Yeah, Mark Ingram and Philip Lindsay and David Johnson. They had
Lindsay and David Johnson.
Rex Burkhead.
Rexy, baby.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like this is like maybe they used to play Dynasty or something like that. And these are all the guys that they used to love back in the day. And we're just going to accumulate all these guys. And if you put them all together, you cobble them together, you might have one good running back there.
Robbie, you are the other dynasty guy in here. Do you like Nico Collins? Maybe there is a better dynasty spin for the Texans than a redraft. Do you like Nico?
Yeah, man, I do, but he's not going to do anything for you this year. I mean, before you even look at the disaster that Houston is right now, as Maddie pointed out, he is a raw prospect in his own right. Like Michigan, he didn't get the full route tree. He is a jump guy, a jump ball guy, big athletic dude, but he does not have a full route tree by any stretch of the imagination. So he's going to take a while to develop. This is a guy that might get, 35, 40 targets, have 3 touchdowns because they just throw it to him in the red zone. But you're going to see a flash here or there. But I think he's a guy that you sit on and wait, or if you see him on someone else's roster and they get sick because he doesn't do anything this year, then you go and pounce. But he's a guy for 2022 when they probably have a top 2 pick, right? And they're going after one of these quarterbacks coming in this 2022 class. I think that's when you get excited about Nico Collins.
When they draft their their replacement in Malik Willis in 2022, and he so hey look, call me Debbie
Look at this
Kev
Debbie
over
guy.
here.
You've been listening to that Debbie Authority, baby. Let's go.
Debbie Kevy over here. Okay.
Oh God, please no! Don't ever say that again.
Kevin
I'm gonna puke.
Kevin edits one Debbie video, and
I know.
he just dropped Malik Willis's name.
I edited that video, and I'm like, ooh, I got some names now. If I need to throw out there, but I will say this: Christian did a good job. Sold me on Malik Willis. I'm like, ooh, this entices me. Another Konami code quarterback. I'm in.
I will say Zach's Harris for Dynasty for a dart throw. I do like Brevin Jordan as well for Dynasty. You probably don't even have to draft him if you're in an auction league. He's a $1 kind of guy. If you're in a typical 4-round, whether it's 1 QB or a super flex, you can probably just snag him off of waivers unless you're like in a start 2 tight end. But I do think that he is someone who a lot of us thought or expected him to go day 2 of the draft. So the fact that he fell as far as he did, and that offense is going to need playmakers, and the guys they have there now with Akins, that hasn't been it for them. So Walito, you're about to have your rights revoked for anything TFA related.
It's sad too. I was just in the chats and talking about you behind the scenes, like Walito, he's the man. Love Walito, everything that he does, hyping you up, and then you come in and you do something like this. Top 20. Listen, Brandon Cooks is 100% not a top 24 wide receiver. I don't even think he's going to be a top 36 wide receiver. This offense is going to be doo-doo.
I was going to say, you could probably switch those numbers and have it be a top 42, and I still don't know if I would do that.
Or at a 0. Top 240, maybe. Then we're starting to talk, but yeah, no.
JJ, appreciate you coming through with the U.S. super chat. We're getting some U.S. money into the funds now instead of this Canadian money and Brandon Cooks bullshit. JJ Ortega Whiteside as a sleeper. Maybe?
Listen, that train has sailed, okay, JJ? And I don't know if maybe
trains don't sail. No. Trains don't sail. I'm going to stop you right there.
Oh, they 100% do. You can put them onto a ship, and they can sail on across the water, okay? As a matter of fact, you were wrong there, okay? And I was a sailor of the sea, so I know what I'm talking about there.
Look, he says Debbie Kevy, and his brain just melts, and he forgets the English language.
But I'm still right.
Kev was a seaman.
Yeah, no, I was a fireman. Thank you. Okay, I know you were in the military, so you don't understand, but I was a fireman. I was never a seaman. I was a fireman. But if we're gonna throw out some like deep sleepers.
Oh, here we go.
You guys have one? Do you guys have one?
This ought to be good.
What is there another Debbie video that you're editing that you're going to throw out right now?
No, I'm talking about in the NFL. Okay, I'm not talking about college. This isn't College to Canton. Okay, we're not talking about that right now.
Yes.
Well, come on.
I asked you guys. That was the question for you guys. I said, "Do you guys have a deep sleeper?"
I thought there was a punchline.
Oh yeah.
No, I was asking you.
On this team or in general?
In general.
Oh God.
I'm just gonna stick to the brand Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I mean, are we talking just rookies or anybody?
Yeah, anybody.
We'll get to him eventually. I mean, at this rate, it might be 3 a.m., but we'll get to him.
Who?
Just wait. We're talking AFC. We'll get to him.
Sorry, Cody. I didn't mean to cut you off. If you want to finish your Amon-Ra.
No, I was just going to say I feel like Amon-Ra St. Brown can be a discount version of Jarvis Landry. And I feel like if you're getting that in the 13th, 14th round, that is well worth the price of admission.
If this is Dynasty, I think that's a name. If we're just talking 2021, the guy I kind of am leaning towards in that offense is actually Tyrell, which isn't a sexy name, but I think they are going to have to throw They're going to be down in games. And if you're talking about somebody who can stretch the field and score touchdowns, the last time we saw Tyrell out there, that's basically what he did. He scored, I think, 5 straight weeks. He scored a touchdown before leaving for the rest of the year. And so that's a guy that I actually think, if you're talking Brashad Perryman, Amon St. Brown, behind Hawkinson, I kind of like Tyrell as a deep sleeper guy.
Matty, Kev, do you have anybody?
Mine remains Jerick McKinnon. Nobody talks about him. He gets no love. Nobody can, but he is the number 2 running back on the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. And one thing we all know one thing everybody knows is that Andy Reid is not, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not getting 80% of the touches. So it is well within the range possibility that Jerick McKinnon could get 40% of the opportunities. He's going to be a pass catcher. That's all I'm going to say about that. Jerick McKinnon was productive last year. We're given opportunities. Jerick McKinnon. We'll get there about the Chiefs.
Jesus.
Way to go, Kev, dick.
You made Robbie leave.
Yeah, this is a take so bad that he just bounced.
He didn't even say bye. He left his camera on and everything.
Didn't even log out. Matty, save us. Who you got?
Just for this year, because I don't really dabble in Dynasty too much. And nothing against Dynasty. It's just I just don't have the time to allocate extra time for that. But my sleeper for this year is AJ Green. I mean, we've talked about how we all love Kyler Murray, and we know the pace that offense is going to play at. And we've talked about their lack of running back depth. I mean, they literally have Chase Edmonds and James Conner, and that's it. If either of those guys were to get hurt, I mean, Murray was already throwing 45 to 50 times a game last year. And AJ Green's quality of targets last year were just horrendous. So I think that, stepping into a much better situation, he's still got some juice left in his legs, I believe, and nobody's drafting him. So, and you have the DeAndre Hopkins whole vaccination thing talk that he was tweeting about. So who knows what his situation ends up being midway through the year, whatever happens. Who knows? I just think that AJ Green's going to get a real opportunity. And I think he's still got, talent left. We've seen guys 5 years older than him still produce in the NFL. So I just think he needed a restart out of Cincy, and I think he can bounce back in a big way.
Interesting call. Speaking of bounce backs, let's head to Indy, where Carson Wentz is the quarterback. What are you guys looking for out of Indy? I will throw in the one piece of news that came out from training camp today is that Paris Campbell is picking up where he left off. He looks really good. And then their rookie tight end, Kylan Granson, was the most impressive tight end they had. And he kind of already seems to be locked in to that athletic, Y kind of role. They tried to get Trey Burton to play, and that didn't work out. And I guess Mo Alley Cox had a bunch of drops. Doyle had some drops as well, and apparently the rookie they took, I think in the 4th round, like I said, Kylan Granson, a name to keep in mind, was the one who was looking the best. But what are you guys looking for out of Indy?
I'd love to see somebody emerge from this wide receiver group. I don't think it's going to be T.Y. Hilton, even though we saw him go on a tear at the end of the season, right? I think weeks 13 through 17-ish, he was absolutely ballistic, torching the Texans, who he's historically good against a couple of times in those weeks. But, I'm really hoping that Michael Pittman can kind of take that step forward. I think where you're looking to get him at, and honestly, when we've done a lot of mocks, we've kind of targeted him as that wide receiver. I think it's 4 for most times, where we are locked in with our top 3 guys, where we know we're starting these 3 guys week in, week out. But if you have a bye week, you have an injury, that's a guy where I think you can feel comfortable enough sliding in there as your top your top flex option. So I'm about Pittman where he's going in drafts right now. I think that's a decent value for what he can be if he steps into that 1A role in a run-first offense, but in an offense where if Wentz has some type of redemption tour, like you're saying, that I think he can have, I think Pittman is going to be a good value.
Amen. Second that.
Yeah, I'm nothing to say. Other than love to see Paris Campbell talk. Love to see. Can he just stay healthy this year? Fantasy gods. Can you let him stay healthy this year? Can you just let him have 1 year where he's not where he's gonna hurt?
Kev, I always wanted the Chiefs to take him instead of McColl.
And they also, what if they took DK Metcalf instead of Nicole Hardman? I mean, that also could have been a thing. I mean,
can you imagine?
Yikes.
You imagine DK? Oh, God.
And Tyreek and Kelsey. Oh,
shudder.
Just pure sex.
And Noah Gray.
Hey, you would not believe there is a lot of hype around here about Noah Gray and that he's the next Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce himself has said how much better he has looked that he did whenever he was, coming out. And so there's been a lot of Noah Gray talk around here about what kind of role he could have this year. And that he could be the future of, once Travis Kelce is gone.
If you roll back the tapes to our tight end rookie talk, Kev, I did mention Noah Gray as the tight end that I liked for a sleeper tight end. So I will say I can always pull up the times. I got the receipts on Noah Gray for that one, but yeah, pretty straightforward there with Indy. Moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. What are you guys looking for there?
James Robinson,
running
and
back.
Travis Etienne. James Robinson and Travis Etienne.
Running backs, yep.
Well, what about the wide receivers, though? Because I think that's another thing where Laviska is heating up a lot right now, and people are a little bit down on DJ Chark, who's still going in front. But I think we do need to hit on the running backs first and foremost. But that wide receiver room, not forgetting Marvin Jones, that's super intriguing of who could be their wide receiver one as well.
Yeah, but I think to me, I still think it's definitely DJ Chark, and then but the running backs. I mean, we have had this debate numerous times, so we know where we stand. I still love James Robinson. I've drafted him a lot in best ball so far. I still, like I said, 100% believe that he is going to be the guy who gets the most touches by the end of the year. I think he's going to be I do think Travis Etienne is going to have a role, but I think it's going to be a little bit different than what people expect it to be. And I think that I just don't think he is going to, at least year one, it doesn't seem like he's going to play the traditional running back role that everybody wants him to, and that everybody thinks that he's going to be. And so in PPR formats, I think he can be a fine flex option, but I still think James Robinson is going to get a lot of these touches, especially the early down work, goal line work. I think that's going to be his. He's obviously loses value because he's not going to be the pass catcher. He's not going to see that same volume that he saw last year. But I do think that he can end up being a guy. I still think James Robinson, compared to where he's going in drafts, makes him a pretty solid value that you should feel pretty decent about as a flex option on most weeks.
Do you guys know where he's going off the top of your head? Because I think from site to site, it's super different, right? Like I've seen him going kind of right behind like where Kareem Hunt and some of those top backups are going. And then I've seen other sites, like I'm looking at Underdog right now, and he's all the way down at 96, which I think if you're taking him at 96, that's a ridiculous value. I like that. But if you're up there where I've seen him on some other sites where he's kind of that top backup behind in this Kareem Hunt, Trey Sermon, Chase Edmonds kind of range, I do not like him there. I don't think you have obviously if injury were to happen for Etienne, he'd obviously jump up, but I don't think he has that backfield. And like Kev's saying, that receiving work to get him where he is above some of those other guys. So I guess it really depends on where you're getting him at. I'm not as high on him as most of you know, but if he is able to carve out that short yardage work and he is the main guy rushing the football, we're thinking Etienne's only getting 8 carries a game, something like that. Hyde's hopefully a non-factor, but I still think he works in a little bit. That's your best case scenario for James Robinson. And even then, we're talking maybe sneaks into that late end RB2 range of 22 to 24, maybe just outside of that.
Do you think that, because I think that it's somewhere in the range of possibilities that he has more of a Chase Edmonds type season this year, where he gets 90, maybe 100 carries, and then probably gets 60, 60, maybe possibly even 70 targets. Like I think, and then you have where James Robinson fits into that Kenyon Drake type role where he gets 200 carries, but probably is limited as a pass catcher. Maybe only gets 30 targets or something like that. That's how I see this playing out.
Right. Yeah. If we're talking 200 carries, I think absolutely he's a guy that you should be looking at. If we're talking about a 96 overall ADP, I think that's a huge value. But I think that's probably a little bit of projection, right? Like it's tough to imagine, even though we've heard the one blurb that came out a while ago that we're looking to just use ETN as that third down gadget guy, kind of Percy Harvin's role. Other than that, like, I feel like that's a lot of projection to expect they take a running back in the first round and then not give him work. It's possible, but I think that's maybe it's more of the unlikely side, right? If we're going to the habanero ghost pepper, I think it's still a little bit spicy. It's still a little bit of a hot-ish take that he won't see some rushing. Well, he'll see some rushing work, but he won't see a more of a split where they both are in the 150 to 170 range is where I imagine when I get to that team and project him. That's where I guess I'm going to be at around there instead of one's at 200, one's at 100 for the rushing work at least.
So ML coming in with the interesting reminder of Tim Tebow is a thing again. And having him in the tight end spot and wildcat and all that, it is gonna be interesting to see how they end up using him, if they end up using him. And then Robbie, real quick, you brought up James Robinson and his difference across sites. So looking at 4for4's site where they have ADP in from 6 different sites, James Robinson is 96 on Underdog, 85 on CBS, 75 on ESPN, 75 on FFPC. 68 Best Ball 10s, 76 on NFL, and then 64 on Yahoo. So he is all over the place from site to site. So, that's. I really hope that we get to the season and it's kind of just like, oh, hey guys, Urban Meyer's been fucking with you all the whole time. He's actually not as dumb as it seems like it's going to be. But man, there's a lot of smoke around that stupid fire for Urban Meyer. But let's move on to Kev's neck of the woods, looking at KC. I mean, this one for me is another one that's cut and dry. I really don't think we have to spend a lot of time on KC. I mean, I guess the thing here is who is the wide receiver 2, but I don't think it matters outside of best ball and DFS purposes. Like I'm not really going to be targeting any of those guys, and I'm not sure that any of them are going to be consistent on a week-to-week basis. But Kev, I'll throw it to you since that is your team in your area. You cannot say Jerick McKinnon. You've already mentioned him once, so that is your quota for the show. So no more Jerick McKinnon talk. But is there anything else you're looking forward to out of KC?
I mean, I definitely think the wide receiver 2 matters here on this team. We're talking about the NFL's best offense, and I know their targets are really concentrated. But I mean, if anything happens to Tyreek Hill, I mean, we got some stuff to talk about because. And right now, I would still probably say it's likely that it's probably they're going to want to do whatever they can to see what they got in Cole Hardman. But I definitely think we should be monitoring like Byron Pringle because they spent a lot of time over the offseason talking about Byron Pringle. And I mean, he got run in the Super Bowl. He had caught the first pass of the Super Bowl, and it's a guy that Andy Reid loves. I've talked a lot about Mecole Hardman and why he hasn't really gotten as the opportunities as you would like to think. It's because he makes a lot of dumb decisions on the field. He tends to stop his routes, which is like a cardinal sin with this offense with Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes, the way he extends plays and everything else, he wants those guys moving the entire time, not stopping. And a lot of times, Mecole Hardman will just stop in his middle of his route, and you'll see Patrick Mahomes yelling at him on the sideline, and or during the play, much like a Peyton Manning type move. And so he just hasn't been that guy. He's gotten plenty of opportunities to do so because Sammy Watkins is always hurt. The fact that Sammy Watkins is no longer on the Chiefs doesn't really matter because we've seen this play out multiple times because Sammy Watkins is a walking injury. And so, listen, I think McCole Hardman has, makes some sense if you want to take a shot on him. I mean, he's the guy that I think most people are going to gravitate towards, and he's probably going to be the guy that they're going to try to get opportunities to. But I would definitely want to be monitoring who these other guys are, which is Byron Pringle. It's not going to be Demarcus Robinson. Demarcus Robinson is going to get up. Demarcus Robinson is not going to come off the field. He is going to play because what he does for everything else. But it's definitely McCole Hardman, and then after that, I think it's kind of the sneaky one is Byron Pringle to kind of just really monitor here. Because it wouldn't shock me if he won the wide receiver 2 role.
Motherfucking Cowboy rolling in like Kid Rock. Cowboy, baby.
The old man arrives.
Surprised you're awake.
I know. I mean, I thought he would have already had a warm glass of milk and tucked himself into the bed for the night. I'm surprised.
Probably had to wake up to take a piss and couldn't fall back asleep.
Yeah, probably. But, hey, this is stuff that we talked about in Discord. So we talked about this today in Discord chat. So it was good.
Yes, MF Cowboy has been the one keeping the Discord going and rolling all day. I every time I go to pull it up, I have to scroll through and see what you guys have all been talking about. It's been a lot of fun and been a source of entertainment throughout the day for sure. And if you are not in the Discord yet, pinned to the top of the comments, just click the link and that's it. You're in, and you'll be part of the TFA fam over there on Discord. We appreciate that super chat coming through, MFK, and appreciate you always being active in the Discord. Maddie, Robbie, you guys have anything for KC, or did Kev paint the picture?
No, I just want to state how much I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know the initial thought is to try to replace Sammy Watkins with, other wide receivers. But I really think, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to have a very solidified role in the passing game. He had 54 targets last year and was banged up. They target running backs on a 100-plus target a year basis. So if he's seeing 65% of those, I think you can pencil him in for 65 to 70 targets easy. And going in the second round, playing for the Chiefs. And he was getting all the goal line carries last year. He just literally could not score. And that was the most unlucky thing because that is all just variance of the line getting blown up or whatever. He will score touchdowns this year.
Oh, yeah, and now they have, top 10 offensive line with everything
and they made improvements. Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire he deserves to be in the top 6 to 7 running back conversation.
Which I will say this.
Top 15 right now?
I was surprised that today the starting offensive line that they had out there was a little bit different than I was expecting to see. So it was Orlando Brown, which is a lock, and then
they had the two
Joe Tooney. But then they had Creed Humphrey at center, and then they had Trey Smith, who was their 6th-round pick that I've talked a lot about, who should have been a 2nd-round pick. A lot of people had projected a 2nd-round pick, but he had I think it was a heart issue or something like that, so teams were scared away from him, so that's why he fell to the 6th. But he's already out there in right guard, which is sounds like maybe he could be overtaking LDT. And then Mike Rimmers. I fucking hate Mike Rimmers. But he's sitting there at right tackle. But
sweet. Well, let's move on and try and get through these and see if we can beat our hour 42 from last week. The Raiders. Apparently Henry Ruggs out here putting on 13 pounds of muscle. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Does it you have everyone who's injured now. Kenyon Drake is now injured. You have Jalen Richard and Theo Riddick on the COVID list. You have the offensive line has been blown up. That was one of their strong points, and you can't even count on that now. Is there anything you guys are looking for out of the Raiders?
I don't know if it matters, but I do want to see what Brian Edwards does and how Henry Ruggs bounces back in year 2. 2 guys that they spent pretty heavy draft capital on last year that they did fucking nothing with because John Gruden is a terrible head coach. But I would like to see that. But at the same time, my shares of Darren Waller would love if they just just continue just to feed the machine, baby. Keep feeding them 140, 160 targets this year for Darren Waller. But yeah, I would like Bryan Edwards to be a thing because I think Bryan Edwards is actually # good at football. But unless they're going to give him opportunity, it doesn't really matter. And that's what it looks like right now, that they just continue to not. And except for Nelson Aguilar, apparently they wanted to, they made him money, though. The money that the New England Patriots paid him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the one takeaway for me as well, is that you can get Travis Kelce in the first there, or you can wait till the end of the second. And I think you can get a Darren Waller, who I think is going to close the gap a little bit with Travis Kelce this year. With just, we're not talking about a ton of notable weapons for the Raiders outside of Darren Waller. So I definitely think he is a better value than Kelce is right now. And I'm definitely targeting him if I'm trying to look at going tight end early.
Anything for you, Maddie, for LVR?
No, yeah, I wish Bryan Edwards would be a thing. It sucks they brought in John Brown to it just muddies the water even more because we don't really know who's going to get that Nelson Aguilar role that was going around last year, because Aguilar and Waller were really the only two guys that had a consistent week-to-week role, and everybody else was just, hey, here's 3 targets. So I am curious to see what they do with the wide receiver room because I would like to see Bryan Edwards get a shot.
Maddie, we already talked about this with what MFK is asking about, but want to get your take on it since you're another Cowboys fan. Are you worried at all with Dak and the shoulder strain and could potentially be out for a few weeks?
I mean, does few weeks mean few weeks of training camp / preseason, or does few weeks mean
that's what I'm assuming? Yeah, just could be out a few weeks into training camp.
Yeah, until they say that it's going to linger into the season, then I'd be more worried. So my thing with injuries at the beginning of the year, if a guy's hurt going into the season, then I try to stay away from that guy because it's just something that's going to linger for the entire year. But it's a little different at the quarterback position. Just because they're not. I mean, yes, they're going to take hits, and yes, it could affect his throwing, but I don't think it's going to be. It's not like a hamstring injury to a wide receiver where he's just going to be sitting out. Like, yes, it may knock performance a little bit, but until they come out and say that it's serious and he's going to start missing actual games, then no, I would not be worried. And if he even starts to slip, then I think you should target him even more.
Let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, if anyone has been paying attention to any of my content, I'm all aboard the Austin Eckler train. The other thing I'm looking forward to here is if we actually see Mike Williams' role increase, because I feel like he could be a nice value for where he is currently going in drafts. But, I mean, outside of that, you're looking at an offense that's pretty concentrated. Curious if there's anything else that you guys are looking forward to. Robbie, I'll throw it to you first.
Respond to the comment. We're on Dolphins. Who are we on?
Chargers.
For the Chargers, I think there's past Keenan Allen. You're kind of looking if Mike Williams can have that comeback season. We've seen him have a double-digit touchdown year. We've seen him have flashes, and if he can stay healthy and if he can be that wide receiver 2 in a Justin Herbert-led offense. Now, I think the big thing to remember is that Justin Herbert was super efficient last year, and that might take a tick back. But again, we're talking about a rookie going into his second year, so maybe the efficiency comes down, but he gets better and he can throw the ball down the field more to Mike Evans. I think that's helpful. And then I think your next big conversation piece is who are you looking for after Eckler? Like, is it – I know Larry Roundtree is a guy that Kev pounds the table for. I'm more of a Justin Jackson guy myself. That's probably the question you asked looking at your smiles. Sorry, guys, I'm answering the fans, okay? I'm trying to get with the fans here. I think Justin Jackson is the guy for me. He's a guy that's going later than both Larry Roundtree and Joshua Kelly. And so that's going to be the guy for me that you've seen him do it before. He just needs to stay healthy, and I think he's the most talented out of those 3. But that's a late guy if we're talking about a running back that you're looking for to pair with Austin Eckler.
No, Robbie, the smiles and laughter were not pointed toward you. It was with Debro coming through with the Larry Roundtree hate for Kev.
Yes, good. We need it. We
Well,
need it.
well, Debro is a big stupid idiot. So I mean, that is always the case. Okay, me and him talk a lot in the DMs, and always it is his takes are wrong and my takes are correct. So Larry Roundtree season is very much a thing, and Joshua Kelly is not a thing. And so, it is funny though. I think the first time we ever had Debro on a show, I called him an idiot or a dummy or big dummy or an idiot or something like that. It's what I do. I did the same thing to Ryan, his first pod too. I told him how much of an idiot he was. It's what I do. But Larry Roundtree, you should definitely be paying attention there, because I definitely think that could be a role to. But how about the wide receiver 3 for the Chargers? Joshua Palmer season? Anybody?
Austin Eckler.
Can I just say this? Something that's been bothering me, just 10 seconds here, is like on other platforms like TikTok, I'm seeing these content creators create stuff, and every fucking TikTok is sleeper Austin Eckler. I'm like, bitch, if he's being drafted late first, early second, he's not a fucking sleeper. Okay, nobody's sleeping on Austin Eckler when he's being drafted that early. Get the fuck out. Like, that's the difference in the content you get on fucking TikTok, is all these jabronis out here trying to tell you that Austin Eckler is a sleeper. Okay, I'm now convinced that Austin Eckler is not going to be because it's just everybody. Like, it's like, let's just all regurgitate the same thing. Anyways, I digress. Yes, I love Austin Eckler, but we don't need to talk about that.
The Josh Palmer love from Christian's interesting, because we did a little combine after, or there wasn't a combine, the pro days conversation, and he wasn't too high on Josh Palmer at the time. So I'm interested in Christian's, if he's just doing a little homerism there with the Tennessee Volunteers there, or if he actually believes in Josh Palmer. I'm not expecting big things there. I think we have to wait and see on that one. I have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams as probably the only pass catchers you're targeting. Josh Palmer is probably a wait and see in that offense.
Yeah, I mean it's Austin Eckler's season. The other secondary backs I really don't think matter all that much, to be quite honest. I don't think Eckler is going to go out there and get 270 carries, but I also don't think that the RB2 for the Chargers is anyone that we necessarily need to target. Maybe you pick him up off of waivers, but outside of that, because I think last year, I mean, not that it's a high mark by any means, but Austin Eckler was on pace for 200 carries, which would have been 70 more carries than he had when he had his RB5 season 2 years ago, when he only had like 132. So if he stays on that track and he's getting 113, 120 targets potentially, he's locked into another RB5 season. So moving on to Miami, a team that has a bunch of unknowns. What are you guys looking for out of Miami? I did see a lot of good Tua talk, and he was looking sharp in his practices, and he hit Albert Wilson with a dime like 50 yards downfield. Albert Wilson is back, baby. That's all I care about. What do you guys have to say about Miami?
I've been waiting for this because I have a question for you, Cody. You have Jalen Waddle at a ridiculous 47th overall or something like that. Explain yourself on that, Jack.
Are you saying that's too low?
Too high.
I mean, he's going to be their most explosive player between him and Will Fuller. Devontae Parker's already opening up the season on PUP, along with Preston Williams. So I think, going out and drafting somebody as high as they did to pair him with his rookie quarterback, at that point, once we get past wide receiver 40 or so, just give me upside. And Jalen Waddle just screams upside with his ability to just absolutely, you cannot catch that guy in the open field. So I think that is a case where they can let him. He's someone who can do a lot of things, and it's all centered around his speed. And I feel like by going out and getting him, what was it, 6th overall? Something. What did he get drafted at? It was easily top 8, top 10, something like that. So going out and getting him and pairing him with Tua, I think is maybe it's a bit on the narrative street, but I feel like that's something that belongs on narrative street. And part 2 is fuck rankings. I hate them and they don't matter.
Listen, Jalen Waddle, it feels like a lot like the next John Ross or the next Henry Ruggs. Just going to throw it out there. So give me
maybe if Christian would have made a Devi video on Jalen Waddle, you'd be in on him.
No, I don't ever I have him in the 60s. Okay, I think that's a fair ranking for him, but I think it's far more likely that Terrace Marshall has a better season than Jalen Waddle this year. And I don't think that's hot at all. But I was just curious about that because
so the potential 4th target on a team versus the potential 1st or 2nd target on a team.
Oh, he's not going to be the first. It's 1,000% Will Fuller on that, right? I mean, I think you're discounting how good Will Fuller is. Will Fuller was balling last year. What was he?
Yeah, he was taking roids.
He was not. He was not. It was some stupid fucking shit he was taking over the counter. It was not. He was not taking roids. Get out of here with that.
He stayed healthy. I think that's all we need to know. You're not getting anything. There's no stay healthy medication over the counter.
Regardless, Devontae Parker will be back, and Devontae Parker is going to get more targets than Jalen Waddle. Mike Gesicki, that we're just forgetting about him. Like, I guess he doesn't exist. And then and Burt Wilson is back. Okay, who knows? I'm still holding out hope for Burt to have a true breakout year. And then Myles Gaskin is going to be involved in the passing game. I know you guys hate Myles Gaskin. I don't really understand the hate for Myles Gaskin, but Myles Gaskin balled last year, but people still hold on hope to Salvon Ahmed. People would rather do that, and everyone keeps convincing themselves that somehow Myles Gaskin's not going to be the starter, even though he was the starter all last year. Lost the job off for injury, came right back, took the job right back, but somehow we're not convinced that Myles Gaskin's going to be the guy because he is the guy this year. I think Malcolm Brown have some opportunities and get some short yardage goal line stuff, change of pace type stuff, but it's definitely still Myles Gaskin. So I like this offense. I think this offense is a sneaky one, and I think this offense could end up being somebody top 10. I think is in the range of outcome for them for an offense this year, and I don't think that's all that hot. Absolutely. By the way, Will Fuller is being criminally undervalued right now, going at like wide receiver 42 or something like that.
Matty, Robbie, one of you other guys talk.
I think this offense is pretty straightforward for me. Gaskin's going to get opportunities. He's clearly more valuable in PPR formats than anything else. Just because Kev, like you said, I think some of the goal line work can and will go to other folks. But he is going to get the good chunk of work out of the backfield. And Will Fuller is that dude. He's a monster, and he can run the full route tree. He showed that last year, even with how bad the Texans were, and everybody keying on Will Fuller. They were still able to get him over 100 yards a game pretty much every week. And then Gesicki, yeah, I mean he was a threat to score a touchdown every week. He's a big body tight end, and it seemed like he had a good connection with Tua. So going into year 2, I think that can continue as well. And after you get past those stud tight ends, I mean, it's really tight end roulette. So you're going touchdown hunting once you get to those later rounds. And I think Gesicki is one of those guys who can score a handful or more touchdowns.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is kind of going back to full circle to Tua. I think we didn't really get a fair shake from him in year 1, right? He's not the entrenched starter. He's coming off a hip injury. He has no offseason. He has no weapons outside of Gesicki and Parker, who I like Gesicki. Parker's okay, but I don't think he really has any weapons. He doesn't have any weapons to push down the field. And the big knock against against him was that he's just not throwing the ball down the field. And now what do you bring in? You bring in Will Fuller, stretches the field. You bring in Jalen Waddle, stretches the field. I think Tua at QB 18 is probably a pretty good value. I see JJ kind of in here knocking Tua a little bit, calling him a bust. But I think he, with the weapons around him, with a full offseason, with he is the quarterback, it's not him, Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of question mark. I think we definitely see a different quarterback this year. And imagine if that touchdown percentage increases as well. I think we can definitely see a value for where you have to take him right now and what he could produce for you in 2021.
Matty, going to throw this next one to you. We have 4 more teams to get through, but let's talk about the New England Patriots. I feel like this is a team with a lot of question marks and a lot that can be still, a lot that's still yet to be figured out. But is there anything from a fantasy perspective that you are looking forward to? Is there anybody on this team that you're targeting or interested in at all?
Yes. I like Damian Harris. We saw last year that he will get volume when he's healthy and on the field, which he should be to start the year. And they'll just run him over and over and over again because that's what that offense wants to do. And I've kind of brought this up every time I talk about the Patriots, but the personnel they brought in fits an on the field style more so than it fits a fantasy football style offense. The personnel that they have with Cam Newton at quarterback, they've got 2 tight ends with different skill sets. They've got John who can literally do anything. He can line up in the backfield. He can run pretty much any route from tight end from all over the field. You've got Henry who, he's a good middle of the field guy, can stretch the field a little bit. And you've got Aguilar at wide receiver who we know can get deep down the field. Saw that last year with Vegas. You bring in Kendrick Bourne, a possession receiver. You've got Jacoby Myers, who is, short to middle possession receiver. And you've got James White catch passes out of the backfield. So it's like every single person that's in that offensive group has a certain skill set that they're good at, and then they lack skill sets elsewhere. So I think that what they've done is they've brought in all these different skill set guys that are going to complement each other really well in terms of an offense being, semi-efficient. And I think they will be better than what we saw last year. But still, I think that Harris is really the only guy that I'm interested in right now. And if there's any struggle, from Cam Newton at all, they will turn to Mac Jones. And that's just a bigger boost to Harris as well, because then he does not lose goal line touches to Cam Newton. So if you are a believer that Mac Jones takes over at some point this year, which I think that they're going to give Cam a fair shot because, he's got, like I said, I think he's got a good personnel around him to have success on offense. But if he sucks in any way, which he very well could because he is a terrible passer, but that's neither here nor there. I think Mac Jones will take over at some point. They're already raving about how he's throwing the best 5 balls at practice that they've seen throughout the whole day from anybody and all that. So we've heard the love already. And the pros to Mac Jones coming out of college was he's a very accurate QB, and in the right system, he could be deadly. So I think that, that they're building the system where, I think Mac or Cam Newton could succeed based on, the play calling. So I'm interested to see how this New England offense looks as the year goes on. But in terms of fantasy, just give me Harris at like depressed ADP.
I think you probably what you see from New England this year. And I do think that Mac Jones takes over probably week 5, week 6, something like that, especially after the Tampa Bay game where they just probably get boat raced by Tom Brady. But I do think Damian Harris is interesting as kind of again in that mold of a later round running back. I think he's going like 6th, 7th round, and so I don't mind it. He doesn't have much of a pass catching upside or path to that, especially with James White still there. And I do think Sony Michel is definitely could get cut or traded. One of those is definitely in the range of possibilities for him. He's never panned out. But I think the other guy that I think that people aren't talking as well. But I think Jacoby Myers should definitely be on people's radars. He had a pretty solid year last year on what was a really, really bad offense. And, I think that he could kind of, put another step forward, and he's pretty much free in drafts. So, if you have deep enough bench, I wouldn't mind, stashing Jacoby Myers, see what he could do again this year. But I do think you probably see a lot of two tight end sets. They're going to probably play Johnny out a wide receiver a lot and get those mismatches, which is exactly something that Bill Belichick is going to look to do and exploit your running backs and stuff or your linebackers and stuff like that. Where so I think those guys are on the field quite a bit as well. So, but if I'm investing in anybody in this offense, it's going to be Damian Harris and then Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I think the one guy I have to stump for a little bit is Cam Newton. We're talking about the QB 32 right now in ADP, and I just think that's super low for a guy that gives you that top 8 upside that we saw in some weeks last year. It's kind of the same argument I'll make for Tua because they're kind of similar, right? Like they were both coming off injury, both in a new place, new offense for Cam, no off season, right? He has no weapons, as we noted. His top guy was Jacoby Myers. His tight ends were Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene. Right now he changes from that to probably the top duo of tight ends in the NFL. I just think a lot more is going to go better for him. And then we flip the script to the defensive side. The defense gets a lot of these COVID opt-outs back. They signed Matt Judon. They got back Kyle Van Noy at the edge. So the defense is going to be a little bit more closer to the 2019 Patriots than we saw with the 2020 defense. So I think the 7-9 team is actually going to be a little bit better, which I think makes Cam Newton's job extend past what people think. Like Kev, you mentioned like week 4, week 5. I think Cam Newton probably holds on to this job as long as this team doesn't crumble. And we saw all of that stuff happen last year. He was the QB 16, right? And he had a 2.2 TD passing percentage. If that even gets close to his average or the league average of 4.5, we're talking about this guy has top 8 potential because of what he does on the floor or on the ground rushing. So I just think this is a guy that, QB 32 is just absolutely bonkers. I get it. He could lose his job, right? It's the same as a Jimmy Garoppolo or some of these other guys, but none of those other guys that are about to lose their job, Andy Dalton, Jimmy Garoppolo, have a QB1 top 8 potential. So that's a guy that if I am absolutely waiting on QB and I take a Trevor Lawrence late or something like that, I'm maybe backing him up with a Cam Newton just to see what I can get out of him early, because he does have QB1 weeks when he scores a rushing touchdown and he gets a touchdown or 2 passing. So I do think he has more than 8 passing touchdowns this year. I just wanted to note a little bit of Cam Newton love there.
Yeah, and there's no risk to drafting him that late either. So it's literally all upside. Like if he's going to get benched, you already have another quarterback anyways. Unless you're playing best ball to where you can't make drops. That's a little different. But even then, you're in best ball, you're chasing upside. So I don't hate it at all. I think, we could see him get benched, but at the same time, for all the reasons that we both just stated, the personnel around him is there to allow him to succeed this year. And it would not surprise me at all if Cam Newton does have a good year. So.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what this offense looks like for so many of these players, at the end of the season. Like, where's Cam? And a lot to look for from New England. But 3 teams left. Let's head over to the New York Jets. I was really looking forward to Elijah Moore, and then apparently today he's running with the 2s after looking like their best playmaker. So I don't know what's going on with that. Like I said,
they don't even have a quarterback.
Yeah. Like I said, top of the show, Zach Wilson is the only first rounder who has not signed his contract, and he's not reporting to camp. And I guess it's all about the verbiage in his contract. And I guess the Jets are trying to void any of his money if the league hands down punishment. And that's what this is over, which just seems absolutely ridiculous to me. Like, we're just now figuring this out at this point of the season. But for this team, obviously for me, Michael Carter, always going to be talking about him, but he was running with the 1s today, but curious to see what that split looks like. But for you guys, anything you're looking for out of the Jets?
Well, I think something we have to note is that this defense is going to be really, really bad. And I think we kind of view it like the Lions, where we don't love any of the names on the offense enough to draft them highly. But if we look at a pure volume standpoint in terms of passing, they're probably going to be a team that throws close to 600 times with a 17-game season. You're probably talking about 35 times a game, maybe even getting to 36 times a game. Like, they're going to have, I think, a lot of volume through the air just because their defense is horrendous. Their corners are bad. Their safeties are bad after trading Adams. So I just think that they're going to have to pass to stay in some of these games. And if you're talking about a guy like Corey Davis, I kind of view him like Michael Pittman. He's in that similar range where if he can kind of take that 1A step and be the target leader on that team, getting 110, 115 targets, they're bigger guys that they can get 7 to 8 touchdowns maybe. That's a guy that I think going as late as he is, that you can see having some starts for your fantasy team from a flex appeal standpoint. Also, I'm glad Kevin left the room because we were about to talk about Chris Herndon running with the twos. That needed to be said. He knew that was coming up, so he had to get out of town. Cody, you were cleared for this season. You have passed on that love. You are cleared. But yes, Chris Herndon running with the twos behind Tyler Croft of all humans.
And JJ, unfortunately, that does not mean that Mims
Cole, baby.
Mm-hmm.
He is Mims is still running with the twos, and the only tweet I saw about Mims was like wide open in the middle of the field, pass goes through his hands. Like, I started to read it, and it was like, Denzel Mims breaks into the middle of the field. I was like, all right, here we go. Pass through his hands. Fuck. So, unfortunately, no, that does not mean that at all. But, yeah, I mean, Corey Davis is interesting, but they got to get Zach Wilson in there, and they got to get him in there soon.
I think they will.
The fact that this is still a thing. Like, I know Trey Lance just signed his contract today, but the Jets had to know that this was going to cause an issue. But, I mean, I think the Jets have been kind of covered already. Maddie, unless you had anything to add.
No.
All right, 2 more teams. Pittsburgh. Obviously, this is how many carries can one running back handle as a rookie? I think it's kind of what we're looking at. And then, this isn't necessarily an answer I think we get during training camp, but can Ben's arm last an entire season, and can the offensive line keep him from being buried into the ground? Is basically what this is going to come down to. I mean, Deontay, if he can get rid of those drop issues, I mean, the nice thing that I will say, I'm going to say something positive about the Steelers. I do like what Matt Canada is doing with, at least right now, but who knows what happens during the season. But apparently they're using a lot more motion. They were using some 2-back sets, and we'll get this talk in right now while Kev is gone as well. Apparently Anthony McFarland in the backfield with Najee Harris at the same time and like being motioned out. That is interesting. So maybe they're going to bring some spice into this offense. But if we get second half Ben, where he's only able to get the ball 6 to 8 yards downfield, that is going to make life even harder on Najee because these teams are just going to stack the box. They're going to bring their safeties in close. Everyone's going to be in close. And I have major questions about this offensive line. So that's kind of where I sit with the Steelers. You guys have anything to add onto that? Anything you're looking forward to?
Not really. I mean, I'm a Chase Claypool believer. I think the kid's a freak. But yeah, Cody, like you said, I just think the whole offense just remains a big question mark. And here comes Kev sprinting back in.
We already went over Anthony McFarland, so now that we're done with that talk, let's move to the wide receivers.
Did I hear Anthony McFarland? I heard Anthony McFarland. It was like a light went off. I was like,
no,
Anthony McFarland.
I know we were just moving on to Tennessee. I know Anthony McFarland and Tennessee sound a lot alike, but we would never talk about Anthony McFarland on this podcast.
That's because you don't like good players, but
I don't know where this came from, but I enjoy it. I don't know where that came from, but I really enjoy that. Need a little snack in between the pod.
Hey, I mean, we're on an hour and 40 here. When you bring this kind of heat all the time, you got to feed the machine. So,
yeah, I think another guy that's going super late. I mean, we're talking about Big Ben going at quarterback 28, and if you expect Deontay Johnson to be involved, Chase Claypool to be involved, Juju's going to have his, Eric Ebron's going to get 75 to 80 targets, Najee Harris is going to get around 60 targets. Like, Big Ben has to be a top 15 quarterback at that point, unless he's throwing the absolute dink and dunks we saw last year, and his touchdown rate regresses from last year. So that's a guy that I think is interesting. If you have all of these weapons, and we're expecting Najee Harris to be good, we're expecting 3 of those wide receivers to be close to top 36. A lot of people have those guys as top 25, 30 wide receivers, and then you add in Eric Ebron. Like, Big Ben has to be a guy that we need to be targeting higher than QB 28. So that's the only point I would make there, that if all of that goes right, he'll be a top 15 quarterback. So I do think he's a year removed now from that elbow surgery. I do think they extend and throw down the field a little bit more than they did last year.
Did he make an effort to lose weight? I saw pictures of him, but I didn't actually do research to see if he shaved weight off.
It's so funny because there was all this post oh, Big Ben looking fresh, Big Ben looking great, and someone posted the 2020 Big Ben and the 2021 started training. It's the absolute same, no difference whatsoever.
The talk going around local Pittsburgh radio is that best shape of his life. Okay. Apparently, he is being more strict on his diet than Tom Brady is, and apparently, yes. Apparently, the answer is yes to your question, Robbie. Is he did make a concerted effort to lose weight and to try and get into that kind of shape. But I feel like with as questionable as that offensive line is, he could use the extra cushion because he could be getting hit an awful lot.
Well, that's been his main trait throughout his career, right? Is how big he's literally Big Ben. That's his nickname, because he's 260 pounds and and you could never sack him, and he would extend plays and make something out of nothing. And so I'm just curious if he, if that is a conscious effort, what kind of quarterback does he turn into? I assume he would be sacked way easier behind a already bad offensive line. But two, coming into last year, I mean, he didn't really have a full offseason because he was coming back from surgery. So now that he's got a full offseason to get right, I'm hoping, his body can withstand a full 17-game season.
I do think it's one of the scenarios where the ADP doesn't match up where the other guys are going in the offense. All these players are being drafted relatively, high, and yet Big Ben is an afterthought of nothingness. He's going undrafted everywhere. And so I do think that I think there's a scenario where he obviously way outplays that ADP that he has, and that maybe this offense does take a step forward this year. I mean, they have the weapons to do so. This offensive line, we could say the offensive line is trash, but this offensive line is completely different. It is completely revamped. I think there's only one player on this offensive line that started, last year. And that's it. And so they did a lot to change this offensive line. Now, they didn't do what the Chiefs did and, went out and added all these, high-profile players. But this offensive line is completely different. And, even the guys they had last year weren't great. And so I don't know what to make of this offensive line. But it is one of those situations where we're seeing all these players being drafted much higher than the quarterback is. So, I think he could end up being maybe a sneaky guy that he's not gonna be a top 10 quarterback or anything this year or anything like that. But, maybe offensive line change and, with the weapons they have, I think he could be better than what people are giving him credit for.
Aren't you guys worried about Najee with that offensive line? Obviously, we think the workload will be great. He's going to be involved in the passing game as well. Do you guys have him as a running back 1 just outside? I have him at running back 16. I feel like I'm probably one of the lower ones on Najee. Where do you guys all have him at?
I think I have him at 15.
I have him at 13, I think. He's borderline RB1. I mean, it's just
volume.
Volume, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he it's not crazy to say that him getting 320 touches this year is not that crazy at all. And there's not many running backs with that type of ceiling, right? And so volume outweighs everything. And so I'm not really all that worried about it for this year with him, because just the sheer amount of volume he's going to get, it's just going to be insane. So as long as he doesn't get hurt, then we're talking Anthony McFarland season. But as long as he doesn't, Najee is it's hard to envision a scenario where he doesn't finish as an RB1 this year.
Also, too, like how much 11 personnel the Steelers run with their 3 wide receiver sets. I think that helps running backs as opposed to, teams being able to clog the box on a 2 tight end set. So I think he has that going for him. And that helps on, screen plays as well.
Yeah, I'm just not sure what his target upside is with the 3 receivers we talked about, with Ebron, maybe a little dash of Patty Frymuth in there as well. And then with there's no way Ben throws 600 times again this year. So with the reduced passing from Ben overall, still having the receivers at tight end, I'm not sure what his target ceiling is. So I feel like that there's also a chance that he could be like David Montgomery-esque from 2 years ago, where he's getting all the carries, like 40-ish targets, and still with all that volume, ended up finishing as like a mid RB2, I think. Even with all I think that is in the range of possibilities. Would I be surprised if he was, RB12? No. But I also think that people are locking him in there, and I also would not be surprised if he was like RB 18 or so, because maybe he's only averaging 4 yards per carry behind that line. Especially a lot of this is going to ride on Ben. If Ben is able to even just keep safeties honest, and he's not like I said, second half Ben from what we saw last year, that's going to go a long way.
I just can't see that would be a really big bust if that's what we'd be talking about. They have issues if he finishes RB18 because of just the pure volume. Like I said, that he's going to see it's going to be really hard for him to fail. And so, look at James Conner last year. James Conner, even though that behind that offensive line, a lot of people like to trash on James Conner and act like he's an afterthought, but he was still really efficient on that team last year. And he saw 40 some targets, I think it was last year, and 13 games. And so saying that he's going to get 60 targets is nothing crazy. And I think it could even be higher than that. I think it's possible. But I think a fair projection, like I think Robbie said, was around 60. I think that's probably fine. 60, maybe 70. I think it's fine. And so if he's going to get that combined with all the touches, and then I think the touchdown volume that's going to be there for him on the goal line, it's so hard for me to envision him just where he's going to fail.
Yeah, right now I have him getting 65 targets. I don't have all the teams done, but he comes in as I got 10 more teams to do, but he comes in at running back 9. So let's say he pops down a couple more teams that I haven't done. I imagine he's right there just outside running back 1 range. I just think that maybe the yardage, the volume's there, right? And if the passing volume is there as well, I think you have a very safe high-end running back 2. It's just, can he get that touchdown rushing total where he gets, maybe double digit? Can he get 10? Can he get 11? Something like that, where he jumps into that running back 1 status. Cody, real quick, I wanted to make a note because they passed so much last year, right? Ben was throwing 40 times a game. He had 608 attempts in just 15 games. I think even if they do a click back, right, with Matt Canada, we're still talking about the Steelers probably still getting pretty close to that number, assuming Ben stays healthy for the whole season. So, I still think they're going to be close. I haven't projected just over 600 attempts, but if he falls short of that, I think we're talking about Juju is a bust, or Claypool is a bust, or somebody on that passing game is going to be a bust, because you can't support all those weapons and not probably have around 1,600 or 600 attempts.
Yeah, I just don't see, unless that defense just falls apart and they are forced to throw. Literally from the last like the last game, all the Steelers front office staff, everyone has just been talking about the run game, more balanced run game. Then they go out, they take Najee in the first. So I do not see them throwing near the clip that they were throwing last year, like I said, unless that defense just completely collapses. I think if that defense can at least keep up with close to how well they've been playing the past couple of years, and if Najee is the guy, I don't think we see that many attempts, and I think that would come out of Claypool's pocket, assuming that Ben isn't going to be taking a bunch of deep shots. But last question here before we go into Tennessee and wrap this up for the night. Robbie, I'll just let you answer this. Would you take? I'm assuming he's talking about in startups, because obviously in rookie drafts he has the case to be 101. Depending on whether it's super flex or 1 QB. But would you take Harris as a first rounder in a startup?
Not quite. He falls just outside of there for me. I mean, there's enough good running backs that I view just having a better 2 to 3 year window than Najee. He could definitely, if he goes to the level we're talking about and he hits that running back 1 status, he has a JT like second half of the year and he vaults up, I think you can. But right now I do not have him at that point. There's just some concerns with I honestly do have concerns with that offensive line and the efficiency that he'll have rushing behind that line. That just lost so much with retirements, with people leaving to go to other teams. So I just think the efficiency will be a little bit lower than maybe Antonio Gibson. Some of these other – and we have to talk about the good class that we just saw, right? Like Jonathan Taylor, Swift, Gibson, CEH. There's a ton of other great backs that just had good years, and they're, I would say, better situations, most of them anyways. So those are guys, just a couple of examples of guys that I'd have over him, along with just your standard, Kamara, CMC, Henry, those type of guys.
How much? I mean, does his age play a huge factor into it as well? With him being 23 years old already, I mean, he essentially has this one contract with the Steelers, and then after that, he's 27 years old, looking at 28 when the contract is up, and I feel like he has such a short window to maximize his opportunities. So, I'm not a dynasty guy, but I feel like if I had him in dynasty, I would be looking to trade him after a year or two and move on and get out from under that, because it's such a short window to maximize that maximize because of how old he is. Where you have a guy like Javonte who's only, is getting ready to turn 21. Yeah.
That's a really good point, Debbie Kevy. I was going to mention that the age is definitely a little factor, where if he's coming in at the age of 20, 21, like some of these other just 3-year starters, you have a little bit more of a window there, but he's basically the same age, if not older, than some of these guys we just saw come out last year. So he doesn't have that advantage on them, and we haven't seen it like we've seen from some of these other guys. So just outside.
I think like Saquon's only 6 months older than he is or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, for dynasty purposes, I'm only counting on running backs for 1 contract anyway. I think it's kind of going to be the norm going forward for most of these guys. You'll have your outliers, obviously, but the days of APs and Frank Gores and that kind of shit is out the window. And for dynasty running backs, I'm just looking at I'm typically only looking in a 3-year window anyway. But then that obviously only leaves room for a 1 contract for a lot of these running backs. So you're just not going to see these guys get paid. I think we see Zeke and Dalvin as kind of like the last 2 that are going to get these big paydays going into their second contracts. But let's wrap things up. Tennessee, this one is also straightforward. Is there anything that you guys are looking forward to out of Tennessee? Any questions you want answered? Any kind of splits or anything you're looking forward to?
What are you guys doing with Julio and AJ Brown? Obviously this is another run first offense, but with having Julio and AJ Brown, do they throw the ball more than they did last year? I think there's a chance that if this defense takes a step back, how does them losing Arthur Smith play a role into their efficiency and everything else? Because we saw just how efficient Ryan Tannehill was in this offense the last 2 seasons and really have a resurgence. And, I know we're all drafting, Ryan Tannehill, ninth, 10th round or something like that because of how efficient he's been, and then obviously adding Julio to the mix. But what are you guys doing with, I guess, this passing offense, and where do you are you buying A.J. Brown? Because I think A.J. Brown's going like third round, late second, early third, something like that, which I don't mind that at all. And then Julio's going like around the fourth round. But, what are you guys doing with this passing offense?
Okay, I'm actually going to toss it right back to you because I think you're the kind of the low guy on Ryan Tannehill, and I'm curious why, like quarterback 12, if I remember correctly. If we talk about just some of those points that you made where we have Arthur Smith leave, we have a defense that probably is going to regress a little bit. They're probably going to throw more now that they bring in a great secondary piece like Julio Jones. You think they have to pass more, right? And just the efficiency we've seen from Ryan Tannehill, it's hard to imagine that shrinks with the addition of Julio. And so if we're talking about a guy that was QB9 2 years ago, QB7 or 6 last year, we're talking about a guy that he almost feels like a lock top 8, around there quarterback. Is there something that's holding you back from moving him a little bit higher in your rankings?
The guys that are going ahead of him. It's just, I have Stafford going ahead of him. I love Matt Stafford this year, this offense that they're going to. I think it's well within the range possibility that Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods can finish wide receiver ones this year. And so I love Matt Stafford, so I can't put him ahead of him. I love this Bengal offense with Joe Burrow. I know what we're expecting, that I know this defense is going to be terrible. They're going to have to chuck the ball. Second year with Joe Burrow, with Zach Taylor, adding Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. Like, I just love this offense this year, so I can't put him ahead of him. Jalen Hurts, that rushing upside that he possesses, I just cannot put him ahead of Jalen Hurts. And then, the other guys that are still that I would, obviously the Justin Herberts and, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, all those guys are going to go ahead of him. I just can't get him ahead of him because I think people could say, me having Tom Brady at 13. Tom Brady was solid last year with all the weapons they have. Like, it's just tough for me to get him any higher just because of the guys that I like there in that range. And so if people want to look too, by the way, people have asked about the rankings. Like, I know we don't ever talk about it because we are no longer but we actually have a website. It is called thefantasyauthority.com, and you can actually find our rankings over there. We never talk about it and never tell anybody to go to it, but there is an actual website called thefantasyauthority.com, and you can actually find our rankings over there. We actually have Dynasty and Debbie's up now, right? You guys put up the Debbie rankings, so we have Debbie and also redraft rankings. But I just cannot take those guys ahead of him. Like, it's kind of the same thing with the running backs. Like, I have this tier of running backs that I just love, and I just like, it's like DeAndre Swift. I feel like when I look at him, I'm like, man, I really could put him higher. Like, maybe I'm too low on him and J.K. Dobbins, but it's just that tier of guys that I just absolutely love. I just cannot put Ryan Tannehill ahead of those guys because I just think that all of them possess a higher ceiling than he does. And I like Ryan Tannehill. I have no problem with taking Ryan Tannehill and redraft this year where he's going.
Matt, are your thoughts on the Titans offense, or is there just anything that you are looking forward to, anything you want to see play out and shake out?
Well, until they signed Julio Jones, I was going to full fade the entire offense, and I thought it was going to be a dumpster fire. So my thing with Tennessee is if they don't operate at the same efficiency, they all bust, and in a massive way. Derrick Henry is rushing for 2,000 yards and almost 20 touchdowns, and he's like coming in at what, RB5, RB6. So it's like he doesn't catch passes, and these wide receivers are all converting all of their looks into converted catches, and they're all very good. Both Corey Davis and AJ Brown were both very good last year, which obviously Julio Jones can step in and be better than what Corey Davis was. But at the same time, if there's any dip in efficiency at all, this offense is not going to be what we've come to see. I guess my concern with Tennessee is, can they be better than they have been? And I don't think they can be. I think they've been as good as they possibly can be, and we are drafting them at their absolute ceiling, and they're not going to get any better than they have been. I think that there is room for them to regress, and there is a a lower floor than I think we give them credit for.
Cody, you got anything?
No, I think that that paints both sides of the picture. It's going to be, we unfortunately we're not going to have the answer to this until the end of the season, right? Like the answer as far as was Arthur Smith the key cog in this, because it's funny how much we talk about Tannehill and how efficient he is and how good he's looked. We didn't give a shit about Tannehill with Miami. It's not like we were like, man, if Ryan Tannehill just gets in the right situation, he could be a baller. And now all of a sudden, he's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks, and efficiency is something we typically don't bet on.
Adam Gase.
Right, but you're still at least going to see flashes from these guys. If they would just
we saw flashes. There were definitely opposite times when Ryan Tannehill flashed this. It wasn't shocking when Ryan Tannehill turned into what he's done in the last couple of years. There were definitely times in Miami where he flashed this kind of upside. But Adam Gase is Adam Gase, and this ruins offenses. But it's not surprising that, right? Because there was definitely a time, especially I know there was one season that it was a lot of hype around the Miami Dolphins offense, and that they were going to take a major step forward, and everybody was buying into the Miami Dolphins and Ryan Tannehill. I believe it was the year I think Tannehill threw 27 touchdowns the year before, something like that. Everybody was buying into it, and so it's not surprising that Ryan Tannehill went to Tennessee and was able to do what he did. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that he was with Adam Gase, and he was kind of unlocked. So I think sometimes we give too much credit to coaches. I think coaches are more for putting them in the right situation and the schemes and stuff like that. But in terms of it's still at the end of the day, it's about the talent on the field and what they're able to do with it. And so I don't think we should be. It's not all about Arthur Smith, but we've also seen really bad offensive coordinators to be able to wreck a team as well. So it's just like I said. I mean, that's my issue with Tannehill. It's mainly that I value these other guys that are going ahead of him more than him, and I do think that there is definite possibility where this team regresses. Because if you look at AJ Brown was a efficiency king. He had 106 targets or something like that last year, and so he was a monster on such little opportunity. So there is definitely that possibility to be there, and so that's just for me. That's why I have him where I got him.
Yeah, last year Tannehill 33 touchdowns on just 481.
Yeah, they were. What were they, second to last in team pass attempts a game last year? Something like that. I think it's second or third to last. I know they came in around the 30 a game mark.
In his two seasons with Tennessee, he has a 7.2 touchdown rate. The Titans were third. So it was the Ravens, the Pats, and then the Titans, and then New York right above them. So
yeah, if there is a dip in efficiency, to offset it, you need a spike in volume. So I guess if their defense plays bad, then the volume can go up. Because we have seen games like the shootouts, with the Texans. Kev, I know you remember stacking that game in DFS last year. That was a Derrick Henry game, but still, I don't know, man. It's just I wanted no part of them until they signed Julio Jones, because losing Jonnu and Corey Davis was such a big deal. Replacing that with Josh Reynolds and Ferkser is just not the same thing. So I'm interested to see, the efficiency from the Titans.
8th in passing touchdowns, 3rd in overall pass attempts among the league last year, which is just bonkers. That's wild. But
yeah, it's crazy.
You guys have anything else you want to wrap up on?
No, just
start the game.
If you're in the chat, Discord, where are you at? Okay, we made the Discord. We talked about it last week. We said we were going to make it, and we've seen a couple people come over. Cowboys over there, Walito's over there. But anybody else, Where you at? Links up top. Just click that link. It's absolutely free. And if you like football, you like talking football. I mean, all day today the chat was going crazy, was hyped, and so that's what we want to see. We're gonna keep doing that. We're gonna get closer to DFS season. Once we get there, the DFS chat's gonna be lit like it was like it is every year. And so just head over to the Discord. Listen, okay, you just click the link. And you join the server, and that's it. It's pretty easy. Robbie just got in there today. How hard was it for you, Robbie? Was it pretty easy to get in there?
It was very easy. You click the link, you make an account, you are in there. Definitely recommend that. There's going to be a lot of good content, a lot of good discourse, as they named it properly. So definitely jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody that's plays fantasy football or on Twitter, and you try to ask people questions, people don't answer you and stuff like that, or through YouTube, whatever. Like, this is just going to be a place where everybody's there. Drop a question in, especially game day is going to be lit. It's going to be fun. Listen, we don't talk about FanDuel. FanDuel is not allowed around these parts. FanDuel is the stone cold worst.
I don't even know.
Okay, so FanDuel, we ain't got no time for it. But I hope to see everybody over in the Discord. So I want to see some new notifications of this person just joined. Welcome. Okay, that's what I want to see.
Absolutely. Wherever you guys are, we are trying to be everywhere to make things as easy for you as possible. Drop your questions here. Drop them in the Discord, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We're everywhere. We're trying to be everywhere where you guys are. So we really appreciate all of you kicking it with us over this 2-hour-long live, as is tradition for the brand.
I know we're just getting into midseason form now, okay? Because this is what the live stream is in midseason every week. We thought in the very beginning, we're going to be like, hey, we're going to talk about all this cool stuff. We got all this show sheet plan and stuff like that in season. And then we've quickly realized that we might as well just not have a show sheet. We're just going to be answering questions the entire time because there is no way in hell we're going to get through it. And it's the same thing with the DFS show. Every time we're like, all right, boys, it's just three of us, and we're like, hey, we're an hour today. Let's keep it to an hour. About 2 hours and 30 minute mark, we're finally starting to wrap it up and building a team.
What kills me is the Thanksgiving slate every single year. We're like, okay, it's 3 games. What's this going to take? 45 minutes? 2 hours and 45 minutes later. We're like, what? What the hell happened?
Yep, it happens every year. But so it was almost August. We're a couple days away from August, boys and girls. Okay? It's here. Football season is back. And so that's what I'm happy about. That is my happy place. And I'm ready to start firing up the old DFS DJ Nation too.
Yes, absolutely. And we will have the podcast firing back up as well. We have a really cool project that we are excited about. Going to be doing a training camp where we're trying to get in touch with all 32 teams and their beat writers and talk to them about fantasy football. So that will be firing up soon. We are doing that with an Emmy Award winner. We have a 3-time Emmy Award winner leading the charge for us with this. 3-time friend of the show, David EJ Berger, is going to be leading that. So we're excited about that. Obviously, if you're on Twitter, we are doing the training camp threads every day. And then we just have an absolute metric shit ton of content planned during the season. Gonna have to figure out how to duplicate our DNAs and make more of our bodies so we can get all this done. But we're gonna do it. We're here to help you guys, here to help you win those ships. So any questions, comments, any suggestions you have, we have to get to Curtis had the suggestion last week about doing the top 10 rookies to draft for redraft. So that's definitely in our plans. Any other things you guys want to see us do, let us know. Devi, Dynasty, Redraft, DFS. We got it all for you. Keep it locked in here. Subscribe, like, rate, review. See you soon.